Hi, and welcome back. I recently did a poll where I asked what you wanted to hear about kind of as we're coming to the end of 2025. And overwhelmingly, the answer was 2026 plans. So today I'm going to talk about what my plans are so far, pretty much for the first half of the year for 2026, as well as why I chose the places that I chose and some of the prices for some of the things that I have booked so far. If you're new here, my name is Karia, and in 2024, I retired early to pursue a life of full-time travel and adventure. So let's get started. Before I go over the schedule, I want to touch briefly on some lessons that I've learned over the years of traveling. And the first one is that you have to find a good mix of slow travel and fast travel, because sometimes slow travel can be a little bit boring. You are in the same place for a month or two or three or whatever. And on the other hand, sometimes it can be great to be able to get familiar with a place and get to know it better. And sometimes, for me at least, I like to do outdoor activities, hiking and biking and whatnot. And so I don't really want to be in one place sitting in a city somewhere in the middle of July or August, for instance. So that's something I've kind of had to learn the hard way, I think. And this year, 2025, I did leave my months of July and August pretty much open. So although I am a type A planning kind of person and I do like to have some things in the books, I've learned that I need to kind of leave a little bit of leeway during certain times. And so, for instance, in July and August, I did some hiking and I didn't know how long that was going to take. So I didn't want to book a bunch of stuff and then just have to change it. So I just left it open. And yes, sometimes that does mean that things are more expensive, but it gives me the freedom to be able to change my mind or take a little bit longer or whatever the case may be. So you'll see that reflected also in my schedule for 2026. So without further ado, I guess I'll actually start by talking a little bit about where I'll be in December. So I am going to go home for Christmas. That is something that's important to my family. And so I will make a point to be home for the holidays, probably most years. So I'll be flying from California, and I decided that my first destination would be Asia. This is for a couple of reasons. Thailand was actually one of the first places I went that was a little more unknown, if you want to call it that. Before that, I had only been to places like France or Canada, where there's a certain amount of infrastructure that you're used to, and going to Thailand for me was like a step off into the unknown. And of course, it was easy and people were so kind and the food was great and it wasn't hard to get around and everything, but I didn't know that before that. So this year, the friend that I actually went to Thailand with the very first time and I are going to meet up in Thailand. And so I kind of based my planning for the first half of the year on that. And that is kind of how it works out a lot of the time. There'll be an anchor or two anchors, and then you work the rest of the stuff kind of around the anchors. So this year, I actually have a few anchors. I have Thailand in April, and then I have a family cruise booked in May, and then I have an event I need to be back in California for in June. So for that reason, I decided to spend the first part of the year in Asia. So the first place I'll be going to is Taiwan. I'm very excited about this. I actually haven't been to Taiwan before, so it's going to be new for me, and I'm really excited to try the food. But of course, if you've been watching this channel at all, you know that I love outdoor activities, and Taiwan has plenty of those. So I'm really looking forward to spending some time doing some hiking and cycling and exploring. So the first month will actually be a fast travel month. After that, I'll be ready to hunker down a little bit. So I have gotten a place in Taipei for the month of February. So the second month will be a slow travel month. Next, I took a really long time to decide on this because I've been to a lot of the Asian countries already, but I would like to more deeply explore one of them. And so I was kind of vacillating between Japan, which I haven't been to probably in about 20 years, and Vietnam, which has been about 10 years since then. And I ultimately decided on Japan. The reason I decided this is because, once again, I do like to do outdoor activities, and there's a few hikes and cycle routes that I'd like to check out. But this time I'll be doing kind of a little bit of a variable travel. I'll probably do a hike for a week and then stay in a place for a week without doing any activities, and then do another cycle for a week and then stay in another place for a week. So that'll round out my month. I'll be focusing mostly on the western part of the country this time. I've been to Tokyo and the normal circuit of Kyoto and Osaka and Nara and things like that already. So I'll be going a little bit further west this time to explore. And also in March, that'll also be a little bit warmer. I'd love to one day hike Mount Fuji, but this is not going to be the time for that. In April, I'll be spending the whole month in Bangkok. And aside from my friend coming to visit with her kids, I may have other visitors for this section as well. For that reason, I actually got a 3-bedroom apartment, which is like a huge deal because normally I have a tiny little apartment. But it's really hard to be in an apartment with 4 women all trying to get ready at the same time. So I thought, why not just splurge a little bit? We'll also probably spend some time going down to the beach for a little while they're there because it will be fun to see kind of a Thai beach town. The first time my friend and I went to Thailand, we went to Koh Tao and actually got our diving certificate together there. So it'll be kind of a trip down memory lane. The one thing that's kind of unfortunate is one of her kids is allergic to a lot of things, like a lot of seeds and nuts. And so we're going to have to be kind of careful about the food. But if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear if you've traveled to Thailand with a person that's allergic to nuts and seeds, what exactly did they or you eat? Because, she'll eat fresh fruit and rice and stuff like that. There'll be plenty of stuff for her to eat. However, it's just hard when you don't know exactly what's going into it. And Thai people do use a lot of nuts. So for the month of May, I have a cruise. So I'll be heading back home to do this cruise with my family. And after that, the plan for me is that I'm going to do another bike ride. So if you've been watching this channel at all, you know that in 2024, right after I quit my job, I rode my bike across the US and Canada. And so I'd like to do another adventure like that. It won't be as long as that one was. That one was basically about 7.5 months on the bike and then another 1.5 months house sitting. So I was away from home for about 9 months all in all. This will probably be more like a 2-month trip. And I would like to be home for the summer because I am kind of missing hiking in the mountains. So I'll meet up with my normal hiking friends and probably do a week-long hike after that. And then I will head back off on the road. I don't really know the timing for that exactly yet. That part is still as of yet unknown. But the month of May will be kind of a mix of slow and fast travel. And the month of June will essentially be fast travel. I'll be changing locations probably every day. Sometimes maybe I'll take 2 days, but most of the time I'll be changing locations every day. So by the time September comes, I'll be ready to have a month somewhere for the whole time. Most likely for September, I will stay in North America or Central America, or I'd love to get your opinion. I haven't been to Nicaragua, Belize, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and I would happily go back to Guatemala, Panama, or Honduras. I also haven't been to very many of the Caribbean islands, so if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them because maybe I'll put it on my list. So that's pretty much the plans. I know that people like to hear about costs, so I thought I would go over just real quickly a few of the costs for things that I've incurred. So my flight from San Francisco to Taipei was 42,000 miles and $5.60. The good thing about that is actually it's on Delta, and I don't know if you're familiar, but Delta lets you get points for some little things, like for instance, Starbucks. You can link up your Starbucks and your Delta account, and when you buy Starbucks, it'll give you a point per dollar or something like that. And it also used to have a partnership with Lyft. It was the same thing, and I think now it's Uber. And I don't really go to Starbucks or use Lyft or Uber that often, but I just linked it up and, started accumulating some points. And I also had a few points left over from when I actually flew Delta before, which has been a long time. But having them linked to your Starbucks or whatever account does keep that account active so they don't expire, if that is something that happens. A lot of them now have no expiration, but before it was nice to have them linked because it would keep them from expiring. So I had a few thousand Delta points already. And they were running a deal with American Express where you would get a bonus. So I actually only had to transfer 31,000 points, even though the flight cost 42,000 miles. So that was a nice bonus. The flight from Taipei to Japan cost $135. And then the flight from Japan to Bangkok cost $166. Both of these I just paid out of pocket. They are both with budget airlines. We'll see if I can get my luggage on because I didn't pay any extra for any carry-on luggage. I think the first flight is a 10 kilogram limit and the second one is a 7 kilogram limit. So we'll see how that goes. My flight from Bangkok back to San Francisco was 36,000 miles and $71. They're running a deal right now. If you are a Premier member, you get 25% off the miles, I think, something like that. And actually, it was perfect timing because I just happened to check the site. I usually use Points Yeah to compare the mileage flights, and the United flight didn't even come up, but I just checked United just to find out if it was available, and it actually was less miles than any of the other options. I also booked lodging already for the 2 places I'll be slow traveling, which the first one is in Taiwan, and that was $1,456. That's a 1-bedroom apartment right in the middle of Taipei. It's a little more than I normally would want to pay, but that's one thing I'm kind of thinking about this year is I might be upping my budget just a tiny bit for certain things. The place in Bangkok, which is a 3-bedroom house, was $2,200. That's definitely a lot more expensive than I usually would pay or expected to pay, but like I said, the girls are going to be there and we will just be more comfortable if we have extra space. And then if anyone else is visiting, then I don't have to have them on my sofa bed. You know, everyone can be a little bit more comfortable. I also fully anticipate splitting the cost of that with other people. And so when I finally do my roundup later next year, you'll see how much I actually had to pay personally for that. So there you have it. That's what I've planned so far for 2026. So I'll be curious to know, have you been to any of these places? Because I would love to get any tips for things to do. And what are your plans for 2026? Do you have any fun travel plans? Because I always like hearing about what other people are doing so I can get some ideas for my next trip. Thank you very much for watching. If this video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe. And once again, thank you for watching and happy travels.